Happiness is complicated. On the face value, it may seem quite simple. Spread your palms, and life will place it in your hands. But in our human experience, this doesn't really happen. In my almost 25 years of existence on this planet Earth, I can attest to one fact. Happiness is a fleeting concept. In modern definition, the route to happiness is considered to be in its pursuit. Popular culture, spread through movies, songs, television, and social media, entrenches this pursuit in terms of working hard or hustling. The hustle is for money, a great house, a car, and a loving partner. This is the basic gist of the pursuit of happiness. I hate oversimplification, and this seems greatly oversimplified. Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the American dream may help us understand this modern pursuit of happiness. Abraham Harold Maslow was an American psychologist who, through a pyramid representation, placed our basic needs for food, shelter, sex at the first level of this pyramid. As we go up, this is followed by safety, laws, and rules of society, followed by our emotional need for love and acceptance, followed by self-worth, esteem, and respect, followed at last by self-actualization of one's spiritual being. This is a pyramid of growth. In this increasing sequence, trying to accurately explain what I sometimes see as some sort of a blueprint for this hero's journey for a human being. Now that the classic American dream, really inspired by a capitalistic thought process, has done is made this pyramid a little bit convoluted. Though it can't be really argued that American ingenuity and capitalism, which it exported to the rest of the world, have really heralded innovation. But again, it has replaced the tenets of emotional, cognitive, and self-actualization with the need to accumulate wealth and capital. This kind of short-sighted notion has dampened our society's way of actually investigating what makes a person really happy. It is replaced with a lifetime worth of hustle that might give you fleeting bouts of happiness through your investment and purchase of material possessions. Happiness for me needs serious self-reflection, introspection, and definitely hard work. It isn't really about this hustle for prestige and money. For me, as I see, a Buddhist monk without any possession is often much happier than a privileged, accomplished person hustling on their way to reach to the top of a corporate ladder. I think our modern society is indeed a testament for a human endeavor of creativity, passion, and innovation. But again, the rules of it have really complicated the idea of happiness. I can't really attest to know what happiness really is. I am merely human after all. It may be different for different humans. It is subjective for sure. It may be reached through a spiritual route, or through successful participation in one's life, or through other ways, through other metaphysical musings or other deep-rooted philosophical endeavors. I wholeheartedly believe if we invest in ourselves, we can at least work towards happiness that is fundamentally robust. Greek philosopher Aristotle talked about finding eudaimonia, which simply means happiness, which may be done through finding the highest good in one's action. And another Greek philosopher, Epicurus, sees it in moderation, in seeking pleasures in limit. With the freedom from fear via friendship, knowledge, virtuous and temperate living, according to him, leads to happiness. Similarly, Stoic philosophy, not so similarly, Stoic philosophy sees happiness to be achieved through not giving into emotional troubles, which are often brewed in one's mind through logical thinking, reflection, and concentration. It is a philosophy of being in a state of equanimity, mind free from destructive thoughts, which are known as apatheia. Theism reinforces the idea that God made the world with a purpose and we should obey his will and teachings. The 19th century Western philosopher like Friedrich Nietzsche, instead of emphasis of values being derived from a supreme being, declared God is dead. This is nihilist thinking of deriving meaning of life without any objective meaning. Albert Camus talked about the absurdity of life and talked about nihilism may be a way to liberate humans to rather live with a heroic dignity in the face of absolute absurdity. Though religious beliefs in existentialism, nihilism, and absurd philosophies have been in loggerheads, the commonality in all their attempts is to really find the meaning of life, which again circles down on how one can find happiness. Similarly, in such pursuit, German philosopher Schopenhauer, when asked this question, answers that one's life reflects one's will, and that the will is an aimless, irrational, and a painful drive. Salvation, deliverance, and escape from suffering are in aesthetic contemplation, sympathy for other, and asceticism. I think to give in the complete religious dogmas or just to be completely dismissive of it all is rather confusing oneself. I think there should be a healthy mix of both rationality and irrationality. There should be reading of Friedrich Nietzsche's views as well as what the Bible preaches. Throw in some Eastern wisdom of Hinduism, Buddhism to make it more interesting. For me, to be clamped by one camp is rather limiting. I'm looking for a magical formula to find true happiness, which I see every school of thought thinks the ideal goal for our existence, to be honest. Buddhism sees this as a journey of inner selves, with a materialistic pleasure, our desires are illusory. Same with Hinduism, which sees the material world as Maya. To be aware of one's breathing, to be aware of one's action, that is karma. That may lead to eventual enlightenment, which is the highest goal to get liberated from the cycle of rebirth in this world. I'm more aware than all these ideas and names mentioned in this episode are not as simplistic as I made them sound, but rather really complex and need a very deep dive to really wrap your heads around. I would really like this podcast to seriously look at these school of thoughts with a more careful eye and scrutiny. In closing, for me, the meaning of life has really no satisfactory answer. For the best of my knowledge, just a motivation to live a life that's full of happiness and virtuosity. And how I derive this happiness and virtuosity? By asking questions and trying to find answers through various sources. It can be religion, can be nihilism. It's just finding answers that satisfy your inner curiosity.